The image in my mind is we're on the ship and we're coming to a desert island. We need a break, and it's been kind of stormy all week, so now we're excited to come somewhere sunny, drink pina coladas on the beach. But wait a second, we're here, Artist Journal, April 14th, 2023, broadcasting from the ship in my mind as we sail onto the beach here. My name is Adrian Pocobelli, and welcome back. Thank you for coming back. Interesting work by RJ, isn't it? He's been doing a few of these Windows works, I want to call them. Kind of an interesting interpretation of the window as I look at it. It almost looks like if you look here, and I'll show you what this is referencing. Maybe some of you can already guess. I didn't get it. It's pretty, for lack of a better term, it's a pretty oblique reference. It would take me several guesses. It would take you. The clue is the color. If you haven't seen RJ's tweet yet, so it is a homage, which is another clue for you. But I was just looking at the windows here, and it looks like RJ, rather than just kind of taking a screenshot of a window, it kind of looks like RJ is making his own, but I'm actually not sure because there does seem to be some JPEG artifacts here. So maybe this is a really old browser window. So RJ has been sort of layering different, windows to make compositions. We saw it with the Matisse dance, where I didn't actually understand it at first. There's the pixelized dance, and then he put a bunch of windows, and the windows were dancing. I actually didn't understand that when I was showing it to you, not until after. Anyways, so here is a similar concept, and another clue for you is snail. We have Matisse, and this is a reserve of 0.1953. So, of course, this is a reference to Henri Matisse's work that with scissors to create gouache découpés, such as his 1952-53 work, The Snail. And I brought it up here for you. It is quite a beautiful work, I have to say. Matisse kind of has a weird relationship, I would say, to modern art. Like, I'm not sure if, say, the Surrealists loved Matisse, right? Because Matisse is so much just about, you might think of just formal color, shapes. I mean, I think, what was the name of that movement? We can look it up really quickly here. The loud color, let's just look up really quickly. And actually I want to show you how big it is. It's actually a huge work. Then we'll look up the movement in a second. It's escaping me right now. And so this is a fairly late work as well. I mean, Matisse was born in 1969. This was actually done the year before he died. So, 1950, 1970, I mean, he was in his 70s. One of his, there's hope for all of us, isn't there? One of his most famous works was made, at the end of his life. So isn't that interesting? And it's huge. It's 3 meters. Look at this, 2,864 millimeters. So 286 centimeters by 287 centimeters. So that is basically l'escargot, the snail in French. And so that's pretty big work here. Maybe it was a vision issue too. Maybe Matisse's vision was going. So anyways, kind of an interesting relationship in modern art. I think, Picasso was very painterly. So Picasso kind of had one foot in this kind of painterly formal camp, for lack of a better term, and then one foot in kind of a more representational, in the surrealist camp for a little bit. But you know what? There's people that know much more about this than I do. So I'm going to just leave it there for right now. But let's just quickly look up the Matisse art movement. Is it the Fauves? And I think that's supposed to mean loud colors. Fauvism. And let's just look at a definition of Fauvism, because it's always fun here to actually know what we're talking about. A wonderful thing to do. Fauvism is the style of les fauves, French for the wild beasts. Okay, a group of early 20th century modern artists whose works emphasized painterly qualities and strong color over the representational or realistic values retained by Impressionism. While Fauvism as a style began around 1904 and continued beyond 1910, the movement as such lasted only a few years and had 3 exhibitions. The leaders were André Derain, Maurice de Vlaminck, and Henri Matisse. And here, so you see kind of the loud colors, the wild beasts, right? And I think that was a reference to using striking, bright colors. So anyways, really nice work here. Just using scissors. Interesting textures, though. You wonder if this is painted paper. We could go into it more. Is there more here? The shapes were placed and pasted down by an assistant working under Matisse's instruction. Some were very large dimensions, and Matisse said of the technique that it allows me to draw in the color. It is a simplification for me. Instead of drawing the outline and putting the color inside it, the one modifying the other, I draw straight into the color by using this découpé, by cutting paper. Very interesting. And they were painted with gouache. So that gives you the texture here. So anyways, just to bring it all back home here, so RJ is doing a pretty hilarious and cool and pretty kind of like conceptually cool homage to Matisse here. And so continuing on, and here was just another kind of cool work by RJ, GM, and again, using this kind of window trope and kind of moving, because RJ loves the screens. It's one of the reasons I love his work and does a lot with the computer, the laptop, the screensaver. So kind of taking it a level further with the windows inside the screen. Kind of playing, but kind of another framing device, we might say. Anyways, interesting work from RJ, and final sort of concept work from RJ. GE, good evening all, just minted something a bit different. Here's the beginning, a recording of a burn of a one-of-one piece I made and minted called The End. So another kind of concept work here. And so RJ burning a work and recording the video. So again, we seem to be almost 1 foot in the gallery here as we scan through our Twitter feed. So interesting. Continuing on, thank you for the comments yesterday. Very nice comments. Human Boy, this was super interesting. Very interesting how the gallery displayed a much better way of using the negative space. So we were looking at the vertical TVs and what to do with that. And how, putting writing underneath is a way of playing with the negative space. So Human Boy like that as well. I am imagining a much better way of using the negative space than I usually see. I am imagining whole wall screens, and we discussed this maybe like 30 episodes ago, maybe more recently. The walls will be made of screens. I think there's going to be, it's going to be like wallpaper. Because, there's kind of like this weird sort of grail that isn't really, it kind of comes and goes, almost like the Palm Pilot did before we had touch phones, which is this idea of kind of foldable screens and this sort of thing. I think it's going to come back and work as wallpaper. Human Boy, I'm imagining whole wall screens in the future, maybe just many panels of screens together. That way you aren't limited to the frame, only the wall size. Exactly. And by making it the entire size of the wall, let's say, edge to edge, it kind of removes this kind of frame. Because all of a sudden you can make it smaller than the frame and it doesn't feel like a weird situation, because in a sense the frame ceases to exist once it just follows the edges of the wall, let's say. Maybe the panels of the screens together, that way you aren't limited to the frame, only the wall size. I just think there has to be a better solution than a single screen that is surrounded by a set frame. Yeah, I think a lot of us, and I think almost everybody probably shares this view, I think, at this point. And also some interesting Lepro chant regarding the AI painting that looked actually quite painterly. Thanks for showing my AI painting. Although I don't use any paint to generate variation, it does have to do with neofiguration, which I've never heard of before. Argentine painting from the 70s, as you said. Interesting artists from the time. Philippe Noé, father of Gaspar Noé, Macho, Dera, de la Vega. Your curatorship is impeccable, always so friendly and focused. Thank you. Thank you. And yeah, so anyways, and a lot of really just nice comments. Runtune loved the Boo Boy. And John Cates, super appreciate you. Thanks so much for showing my work. Great to hear from John Cates. That's great. Someone who's been doing Glitch for a while, from my understanding. So that's super cool. And of course, the episode has been edited. The Twitter Spaces with Hasdrubal Waffle. I have just posted that this morning. So there it is. What am I doing? It's kind of funny. That red thing, like that's just, yeah, you see how we're like reptiles here. That notification thing. I mean, to bring it all back home here, I think that's what Object does brilliantly is they have that little red notification on the top right. It's extraordinarily powerful. Speaking of which, ChatGPT, so Skybase here, I'm currently out right now, so I can't do very much, but I figured to do something in the meantime. Played a bit more with ChatGPT 4, and let me just make this bigger, and made myself a mini ASCII art program. So check this out. And we were talking about this on the Hasdrubal Waffle show, how Hasdrubal will use basically 9 different, JavaScript, let's say, type programs, 9 different tabs, let's say, in his browser. And he just works during the week, and then maybe he'll assemble it after, taking, parts from this, parts from that. Sometimes they crash, sometimes they glitch out. So now it looks like you can start to, look at how elaborate this ASCII art program is. And you can start to make your own. So things are getting interesting just using ChatGPT. And so, yeah, anyway, very interesting from Skybase. I'm going to have to try that out. Here are some pictures, and let me just minimize this for a second. So Sky Goodman, Surreal, my work on display at Sotheby's Verse. So this is Glitch Beyond Binaries, so we're getting some pictures here. And so I imagine these are the curators. Empress Trash, Inavare, Let's Glitch It. And so here's how they display it. So anyways, how exciting is that to have your work displayed? And there's a Sky Goodman. In New York, I assume, at Sotheby's, Glitch Beyond Binary, and they're giving it the full kind of treatment here. So very fun and very cool. That story continues to play out. And Sky Goodman having a good week. So there the work is at Sotheby's. And here on the front page of Foundation, nobody has to go anywhere with a bid of 1 ETH. So a fabulous week for Sky Goodman. And here is the piece. And this was minted on April 12th. And the work revolves around the use of emergent and obsolete technology. By merging different tech from different eras, I'm able to create a visual language that speaks to the alchemic nature of joining hardware and software. Themes of ecology and mysticism are present in this work, asking the viewer to enter the scape. It's inspired by the novel Island by Aldous Huxley. I'll admit that I've read that book. It's a little bit of a tedious book, I would argue. It's kind of I think it's kind of like a conceptual follow-up to Brave New World, where I think Brave New World was maybe a bit of a dystopia. Also I thought, 1984 is a much better read with Orwell. Surprisingly, it's a love story, George. But taking it all back home, Island, I found it to be a little bit of a long read, and I think it was his way of doing, instead of a dystopia, a utopia in Island, where psychedelics are used in a positive way. But, Huxley, anyways, here's the work before I get too distracted. But Huxley, I sometimes wonder to myself if Huxley is a little bit overrated. It's a little dry, and don't forget, I think it was Thomas Huxley who was the early evolution, theorist of evolution. So all to say, maybe Aldous got a bit of a free ride because of, English biologists, and was an English biologist and anthropologist who specialized in comparative anatomy. He became known as Darwin's bulldog for his advocacy of Charles Darwin's theory of evolution. So anyways, I'm getting off track here, but I sometimes wonder to myself, did Huxley get a free ride? And so anyways, very interesting guy. And I will say this, finally, I mean, this massive tangent, to give Huxley his due, The Doors of Perception is probably easily his most important work, where he describes taking mescaline. And of course, the Doors got their name of their band from that. So Huxley's The Doors of Perception, a nonfiction work, I'd argue is his greatest contribution. Ballard actually wrote an introduction to that. And I think that actually might be what Ballard said, and I totally agree. So anyways, we are way off track here. Let's continue on. So this is a super rare, so NFT New York City is going on, and so super rare has some sort of show here, and it looking interesting. It looks very polished, shall we say. The Canvas 3.0. And was it, so you're looking forward to tonight? Here are all the artists. I showed the page. So this, you know what this is? Actually, it's probably not super rare. This is a super rare space, okay? And the edge is Transient Labs. So I think the name of the show is The Edge. I think Transient Labs is putting it on as a super rare space. Okay, pushing the boundaries of technology to the edge. And they have like an all-star cast here. Louise Ponce, Lily Illo, so it's great to see her here. And she's even got bids already. Very cool. We're going to look at some of these works closer. But just to give you a taste of what's going on, there's, I think, 0009. We will look at that. And Spogels Maskinen. So anyways, that is going on. There's Uxine, Reserve Met, and more. So very cool. And here are a few of the works. So here's Lily Illo, the Dreamer. A nice low reserve there, smartly. And 0.2, and now it's being bid. There are a couple of bids here. So a cool AI work by Lily Illo. Big shout out. Very friendly, great person. Was on the Spaces a couple of times. And anyway, great to see Lily Illo at NFT New York City. Her work. I believe she's in Australia. So anyways, massive file too. 7,000, almost 8,000 by 10,000 PNG. So that is great. Congratulations there. And Louise Ponce, who we've looked at a few times. So interesting artist, probably a big file here too. Kind of reminds me of Neurocolor a little bit too. Now Louise Ponce has his own thing, obviously. Let's see if there's volume. No volume. But interesting works here. It's a little slow to load, unfortunately. A little slow to load, and 8 ETH reserve. So again, Louise Ponce work sells for quite a bit of money. Continuing on, here is Spogels Maskinen. And it's great to see Spogels Maskinen on Super Rare, isn't it? We saw, I think it was a Vanitas. I'll show you in a second here. So it's, I think, his second work, or Spogels Maskinen, as a matter of fact, that was minted on Super Rare. So a nice addition here. And of course, Spogels is having a great few weeks with Xcopy publicly, giving a kudos to Spogels here. Yeah, here's that Vanitas. Remember that? That was awesome. So a reserve of 1 ETH, also part of that Transient Lab show. And here it is, 0009, another AI work with Taj. It looks likes the AI works, interestingly, with a bid of 1.1 for 0009. So that is pretty impressive. And of course, we recognize kind of this blobby AI biomorphic material. And interestingly, an artist painting it, so kind of self-referential within the work. We see these guys here who are in this work being painted by this person. So maybe this is a portrait of 0009. I hope I'm pronouncing that right, 0009, with AI and Photoshop. Interesting work. Uxine, on-chain piece. Let's take a closer look at this. And you know what I noticed, first of all, were these increasingly saturated colors that we're seeing here. Quite a bright purple for Uxine, and interesting combination of this pixelation here with the oil painting, and then here we have the skull, kind of made 3D, so continuing to push things here. Interesting kind of three-dimensional skull. And then, of course, my favorite part, sometimes is this noise here and this great kind of glitchiness on the side. Interestingly, they seem to be glitching at different speeds here. This is really fast, and this is slightly slower, and this is probably going at a different speed. So it kind of overwhelms the brain in a way that you just kind of accept whatever's going on here rather than feeling like you can figure it out. So interesting work, on-chain piece, and that has also been bid on by Caffeine 2 for 1 ETH. And here it is. Look at this. So now, is that square? You wonder if this was planned, like if they planned it out ahead of time. Like, hey, we have a square frame. Why don't you make a square work for us? Look at how good that looks. They did a really nice job of showing the TV here, or the screen. Like, that is a pretty nice display that they put together here with everything there. And okay, and so another one by Uxine, actually. This is a one of one that was posted a while ago. So this is being auctioned. It is at 400 here on Tezos. Again, playing with this, multi-layered kind of distorted GIFs or pixelated renditions of a retro computer turned into a GIF as one file. Really nice piece, I have to say. And finally, GIF on paper. And we've been discussing this actually for a couple of months here, this idea of how do you portray a GIF in physical form? Well, here is a solution that you have multiple. You divide it up by frame, and then you can, let's say, screen print. This almost looks like a screen print, each one, and then you could have it sort of along the wall of a gallery. What Uxine seems to have done is maybe done something like this, perhaps, but then returned it into a GIF. So that is pretty cool. So we're going back and forth here, traveling through the mediums, GIF on paper. I love it. So anyways, it continues to be awesome and exciting and interesting. Shout out to Uxine, a longtime viewer of this program, thankfully. And look at this, some other displays here. Kind of an interesting way of doing it. So again, we heard from Human Boy, and so here it's an overlay on top of the work, because here I think, actually, these are all a part of the same work. So here it's getting kind of creative, basically. You have one big screen here and then two smaller screens. So I think we could say it's definitely being cut off, because you see the legs here kind of join. Interesting display, is where I'm going with this. Here's another one in the background. This is also NFT New York City. And you see this kind of cyborg alien type figure here. 3 screens put horizontally. And then here, interestingly, you see this work here. It looks like it's here. So maybe they're doing a slideshow and using this as kind of like an interesting display. Anyway, all very interesting. My work is showcasing at Artists Village. This is Mapen Y, Level 4 Pavilion, North Javits, NFT New York City. Today is the last day, and I think this was yesterday. Or maybe it's today. Thank you so much, In Between Cosmos, MZK Visuals, and K Justin for taking some photos for me. I appreciate it. Yeah, absolutely. This is great to see all these photos. And here is something else, I think, to do with NFT New York City. Proof of people times refraction. And this is Neurocolor, with kind of a different kind of work, almost semi-cartoony, or slightly cartoonier-ish than some of the other works. Anyways, very interesting and selling really nicely. 52 Tezos, and 20 have sold in an edition of 500. So that is pretty good, and it's with VCA Gallery, Refraction DAO, in collaboration. Outer Self Assemble Emergent Gaze from the Artificial Collective Mind. And Osbren, this really cool artist who did the video camera and did another work of these kind of, it's almost like we were seeing with the Uxine there and the rendition of the computer, taking different, variations, versions of a work, and then using the GIF format to put them on different frames and then kind of turning them into something. This isn't exactly like that, but it does have an analog here, because here where it's kind of shaking, you're just seeing, like at the bottom here, you're just seeing different variations, different versions of the thing. But this is kind of a little different, because there is a little bit of a movie quality to it with the logo coming up here and it closing up and down. So that is, anyways, another interesting work here. I also thought this was super interesting. as far as a sales mechanic, available for private minting on request, as always. Also, I never literally plug my Instagram, but feel free to know it's there. So anyways, private minting on request. Interesting. A work by John, a 1 of 1 on Tezos. It's at 600 Tezos right now. Let's take a quick look at the history here. Start at 25. So as we see here, it seems like, putting a low reserve really is the way to go, because all it does is force whoever's interested to make a decision. Rather than it sitting on the market, people think about it, people forget about it. You make it too attractive to not bid on, because, oh, that's a steal. Get a John for 25 Tezos, 1 of 1. I have to bid. Starts a 24-hour auction. Everybody's forced to come in, right? I mean, this seems to be the way to go. So anyways, cool work. More retro TV. I think my favorite part is the green screen here, but also the kind of like the big retro, what seems to be a TV. And interesting movement here too. So cool work by John Carroll. This is ZOXO Journey, and it seems to be like we've shown at least one work, maybe two, by ZOXO, and this seems to be like a Mario Brothers star, Super Mario Brothers star, doesn't it? And so playing with that, and it's made a few works in that spirit. This is an open edition for only a Tezos 30. 9 have been minted. Just kind of interesting, cool work. This one went around. You may have already seen this. People love this work, and we'll get to the artist's name in a second, but let me show it to you. It's beautiful, isn't it? It's just a really nice abstract. I wanted to pick one up, and they were really cheap. There's only 5. And they were going for a Tezos 50. Spagels Meskinen picked one up. Coda Nakazono, right? So nice crowd there. Kramer is the artist, and I'd never heard of Kramer before. Sounds in Space, and so here's some of the other work. And again, you do get the sense it could hang well with Coda Nakazono. So interesting artist, another new artist here. Fedora Pesa.eth, made with code in P5JS, Panama City, April 2023 by Daniel Oropeza. So let's maximize that. So anyway, cool work. Here, just a nice abstract work, interestingly made with code. 2 minted only for 0.0222, open edition, and you can buy now. I don't know if there's a limit. Maybe that's why there's only 2 minted. There may not be a time limit on this. Here's another one you may have seen, Renki. So really cool, what I'd call animated abstracts going around, just kind of like a wild work. This is something I would never make in my entire life. And maybe a lot of people kind of would feel that way. So it's just kind of like, I find it very interesting. So Shin Iwakuni is the name of the work. This is Shin Iwakuni by Renki. And I believe this was just minted here. So very interesting work. I quite like here, you see how the red and black background is static here, but then we see some movement here as it comes around, and just going with it. I like that a lot. And see at the bottom it's moving, not at the top. We see that with Cappen's work sometimes, with the Cappen's gift shop. And that's just really cool. So anyways, another new artist here. I like coffee, but I drink too much coffee. I completely relate. So I can't sleep well. I'm okay. I can drink coffee at like 8 in the evening for the most part, and I'll still fall asleep. Probably because I drink so much coffee. Anyways, I was about to click on the red notification there again. Acid Boy. Here we go. So another kind of cool work by the master of psychedelic abstraction, as I have dubbed him here, Acid Boy, and kind of an infinite regress of some kind here. Anyway, really cool work, pretty reasonably priced at 0.35 ETH on Super Rare, and this was just minted here. So nice work. I don't think there's any volume on this one. Stare at me for a minute. And here, Kato, another abstract work by Kato, which kind of turned the head here. So just kind of simple and beautiful here. And you gotta love this off-white. I'm pretty sure this is an off-white background here. I think it's just off of, the pure white, and I think that really helps the piece, actually. So Kato, edition of 10 for 5 Tezos, 6 left. Do not melt. Spira by Françoise Gamma. So just another cool, animated abstract. There's a lot of, animated abstract works today. It's almost a category, a genre in my mind. It's tempted to just make it a genre unto itself. Here's another one, Spira, mysterious title, and there are 14 left. So anyways, just minted. I assume Cap'n 10 new pixels minted. So I couldn't find where this was. I guess this is on Tezos. Oh, here's the link. Let's see if we can find it. So interesting. So do you see what we found here? Which seems to be another Cap'n account. So Cap'n has quite a few accounts. As we know, there's Plants, there's Cap'n's Gift Shop, there's Cap'n, and here is another one. I mean, this is a whole other way. There are no rules. Instead of creating like a new collection, you can just start another account with another kind of ID, right? Another identity. Multipixelar organisms. And again, you think of Santiago's speculative kind of science fiction, fictional science works. This seems like it could go really well with that, doesn't it? Anyway, very interesting. What were the 5 Tezos? Very reasonable. Some have sold and many available. So anyways, pretty cool. I thought this was just kind of a fun, interesting, and actually I'd say unusual work here. Pilot's uniform. Just an unusual subject matter, unusual subject to portray here. So just kind of a cool, interesting pixel artwork. It just kind of captured my imagination a little bit. And the tie seems to be slightly darker than the background. A really interesting artist who I've looked at maybe a month or 2 ago, Element Lee, who has these very kind of poetic, minimal-esque pixel artworks. And here's another one, and representational, but kind of painterly in its own way. Plant and insect. So I guess this is the insect here, and this is the plant. So just a really cool work by Element Lee. And here's Cap'n again, Memories of Zambala. So unfortunately, I couldn't make this bigger, but here, maybe I can do this. So anyways, I can't wait for this to be minted. This is beautiful. And sticking with the program here of black and white static and color dynamic, love this stuff. Again, reminds me of that uxine along the border. Just this random kind of noise. It creates a real painterly effect, because if we're to cover up this area here, this kind of mysterious area that almost looks like it doesn't belong on the left here, I think it becomes slightly less arty in a sense. Like it's just a nice irrational element that helps just make it more mysterious, more poetic, in a sense, more ambiguous, right? So I'm kind of a big fan. To me, this is like drops of paint on the canvas, this sort of stuff, leaving this stuff in. Really nice little gradient there. I assume with Aspirite. And speaking of pixel art, mech.txt sneaks in with a new one, Blue Moon. So playing almost monochromatically here, I think. So a lighter blue here and kind of a darker blue. So anyways, beautiful Blue Moon. You can still get it for 20, which is pretty reasonable for mech.txt. So very nice piece there. Continuing on, and we're cruising through the show today. This is excellent. Santiago, Spirit of the End of Time. I thought this was a really nice piece. I'm always a big fan when Santiago uses pixels, interestingly. And I also like how these pixels here are not quite meeting up with those pixels. So anyways, and now they're all getting kind of twisted together. So another just interesting abstract, interesting color too. Spirit of the End of Time, and this is an edition of 25 for 7 Tezos each. There are 17 left. Nice kind of almost not a white background either, kind of like a cream yellow, just to let everything sit nicely there. A new work by Gloomtube, Finding Gems at a Yard Sale. So here is one of those kind of hilarious circular couch beds, maybe, with a big Gloomtube on it. So kind of making fun of that a little bit. And just all the kind of, again, detritus and waste of our world at a garage sale, old Santa Claus. So, just poetic work here. Beware of dog, someone with a cigarette smoking outside, a little pirate flag, and everything. Baseball bat. So just beautiful detail everywhere. Let's see what happened here. Free. I missed the punchline there. Finding gems at a yard sale. That's hilarious. Just take it off my lot and it's yours. Edition of 20. And you can get it for 32. And let's just see here. Interesting, accepting offers. So maybe, does GloomTube, I think GloomTube was kind of getting, the flippers is trying to get even with the flippers by basically, I'll hold on to these and I'll take offers, perhaps. And so that the flippers don't make all the money, or perhaps. Seems to be what's going on. Gabrielle Tesserev, who, longtime viewers will know from her really excellent works that are on Object, these great cakes. I'm a huge fan in tea and everything, just a really cool artist. Well, there's some pancakes on Solana. Lately I have some sleepless nights, so in the morning I feel my body melts on my bed. So hard to wake up, just like this lazy butter on the fluffy pancake stacks. Gonna list wake up tomorrow only on exchange. So I think that's really interesting. Solana continues to attract artists and, so I just think that's interesting and just cool work. I'm a big fan of Gabrielle Tesserev. And I'm a huge fan of Graphica.png Mineral. Great title. Again, using AI, as far as I remember, collage and digital painting to make these incredibly unique and instantly identifiable works. There does seem to be a kind of textural feel here. And the composition on this, I adore. I adore the composition on this, like with this head of the rider being cut off, and then you have just this kind of, circular object, but maybe it's just abstraction at the bottom here. Very beautiful work here, just beautiful. Again, exporting. Another work by White Solitude, Hide and Seek, and using AI and painting here. And we see like a pretty impressive brushwork again here, just kind of splashiness and texture. We're back to texture. So that is a 1 of 1. You can buy for 30 Tezos. And more texture, Bolin 132, Portrait of Pope Innocent X. I actually have a work I've been working on off and on that actually has a subject too. And here is just some really nice painterliness. And I'm never really sure what Bolin 132 is doing. Showcases my signature technique of painting, format oil painting, but I'm pretty sure this is digital. But maybe there's a combination. It almost has an AI feel to it. Hard to say, but interesting and beautiful. Portrait of Pope Innocent X. And I think, where this is, if I remember correctly, this is at Palazzo Pamphili in Rome. And I highly recommend going there. It's right at the end of Via del Corso, since we're talking Italy here, and it is Friday. At the bottom of when you go into Italy's old city, there's the main gates, and then if you go, Via del Corso is the main middle street, and if you go all the way to the end, right before you get to the big monument that was made, I think in the 1880s with the horse and this kind of neoclassical monument, right before that, you can Palazzo Pamphili is there, and I believe that painting is there. I highly recommend going to that. Seeing these old palazzos is inspiring. It makes you want to cover your walls with paintings, because that's kind of what they did. So anyways, just kind of really inspiring to see how other people live. Beautiful work. Klaus with a abstract here, kind of a glitchy abstract work using analog video gear and post-processed and color corrected with DaVinci Resolve. So maybe a little bit of software here too. Cool big chunky pixels, hey? I'm a huge fan of the chunky pixels. So nice piece here, available for 3 Tezos, 1 left, edition of 6. And here's Feels with 0.25 ETH, so not cheap, but Feels sells for a lot of money, and 4 have already sold, and an edition of 11 on ETH. So let's take a closer look at that. And so just cool, I guess we'd call it video work by Feels. I don't think we have any information here, just a rabbit and a hole. Limited edition on Manifold. And here's another Feels work. Let me make this a little smaller. And kind of a more chill work, hey? Just a very, very slowly moving orb here with this kind of, spectrum, prismatic spectrum of light here. And 508,000 views. 508, 500,000 views. I mean, look at that. That is, or here, from April 3rd. So maybe I missed this the first, I guess I was one of the two people that didn't see this. Espinosa V2, Mensajes 1, noise has all the signals. Some more just kind of VHS, analog, video glitch work. So a cool one here, edition of 25 for $250, 24 available. And LB, also, Go Your Own Way, Edirol, Panasonic, Mismatcher, recorded with capture card. And 5 left at 5 Tezos. Cool work, kind of a little different here. It has a mouth and just some really nice noise. Again, look at the edge there, which is just great. It just adds poetry, that sort of stuff. The stuff that doesn't need to belong there, but does, as we saw again on the edge of Uxine's work and the other one we were looking at, Kappen. So continuing on, Ex Mortal. A few more noise studies just for us to gaze at here. And here's another one. So continuing to release the one-of-ones and just appreciating the abstract qualities of noise. So I just love the concept of that series. So simple. And here is House of the Model. So there we go. Awesome intro. God. It almost sounds like a noise distorted version of who did Teenage Kicks? They had there was that guy that had the radio show, John, and he had New Order on and everything, and these guys were on, and it was like his favorite band. We'll have to return to that whole thing. Anyway, Ellie Lowe next. Kind of a weird, almost profile picture type work here. And let me see if we can get the... So, interesting volume here. Doesn't loop. Okay, so that's Ellie Lowe, Trash Lab object number 13. And you see there are a few of them here. So almost like a PFP project from Ellie Lowe, interestingly. And I noticed there were a couple that we had missed here. So let's take a quick look at that. Edition of 11. Really nice, interesting work, and I have no idea what Ellie Lowe is up to, but it's super interesting and really well done, isn't it? Let's see if we can get this one going. It does seem to share a common theme across them. There is a bit of a sci-fi thing, and again, it gets mixed with trash art in a really interesting way. So Trashy Bag number 58, really just cool artist, isn't it? Trichroma, so this is Daniel W. And again, we're discussing creating a new account for a collection rather than just putting it under your name. I mean, so here's another example, Trichroma. And Hasdrubal Waffle also does that, Authentic Waffles. He's saying how he has 9 different wallets. So that is interesting. So this is a new series. Here's the Pyramid, poem generated by ChatGPT. I don't know if poetry will ever be the same, and maybe in a good way too. So anyways, Pyramid, and there are 2 others in this new account. And here's the Key. Kind of has a tarot card feeling to it, but looks like his own thing. And here is another one, a really big piece, Trichroma. And this is the first piece in the series. So almost like a currency bill, but not quite. So just kind of interesting work. A lot of symbolism here. You got mushrooms, alchemy maybe, the sun, This devil figure, who knows? All sorts of stuff. It almost looks like a weird play on a dollar bill or something. Flora Marquez with a new piece, I Will Never Do Anything I Don't Believe In. A beautiful thought and a beautiful work here with beautiful painterliness in almost like, again, looks like a watercolor feel going into the hair here. And a little planet at the bottom. And here, this is just Thuja. And she's having a difficult week. Immigration and worry that our family could be separated again is beyond stressful. I can't even imagine. Do we succumb to governments and laws that do not have our best interests in mind, or can we transcend this moment through more creation and art? So anyways, big shout out to Jess Thuja. That doesn't sound like an easy situation at all. And here's a work by Jess who makes beautiful work that combines AI, illustration, and I think even maybe photography. I'm not sure, but almost everything, which makes her super interesting artist. Images of the week with this artificial memory series that I absolutely love. Adds noise, adds sound. And it kind of morphs a little bit here. So a variation on the series, I would turn my mic towards the computer here, but usually my mic has gotten very sensitive and that might just trigger it. Anyways, what happened there, it is an edition of 6 for 15 Tezos each, and Venta, finally here, with another beautiful work in that trademark style, instantly recognizable. So another beautiful AI artwork here. Tail Time, Venta times AI, edition of 15 for 5 Tezos each. And Strange Thing with is going to release more work than Picasso at this rate. And here you see, again, more AI fashion using the Renaissance kind of melded in and these like shallow reliefs. Shallow relief sculpture. So beautiful and interesting as usual. And that's your show, everyone. Have a great weekend. Thank you for joining me again. Until next time, take care.